everyone has like a lot of these omakase experiences that sort of blur into one another that can feel really generic. Mori Nozomi felt really special for a bunch of different reasons. I mean, just in terms of the quality of the ingredients and the technique and like the finesse of the food. And it's really, really extraordinary without being like big and loud.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Matt Rodbard. It was so much fun having Tejal Rao into the studio. Tejal is the co-chief restaurant critic at the New York Times, a role where she shares the mic with Ligaya Mishan. Newly elevated to this important job, we talk about how she views her role as a critic and go over her many memorable stories at the Times. We also go back to her days working at the Village Voice and how that era of internet reporting, dare I call it blogging, really informed her well-respected journalism career. Tejal is one of my favorite voices in food, and I hope you enjoy this episode. And at the top of the show, it's the return of Three Things, where Eliza and I talk about what is exciting us in the world of restaurants, cookbooks, and the food world as a whole. Eliza, we're back with Three Things. How are you?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
Good. Do you want to start?
Sure. My first thing is I went to Zimmy's for the first time on Friday with Mahira Rivers, and it really is such a beautiful, perfect restaurant. I've been wanting to go for a while. I've heard really good things from my friends in the restaurant community here in New York. And one thing I liked about the restaurant, maybe we ordered poorly, but we had 3 different kinds of aioli that were on the table because they were with different dishes that we had.
Wow.
And I just respect a restaurant they were distinct. They were very different kinds of aioli. They all were delicious.
Can you take us through like a little bit of
all
a recap?
All 3 of them? I don't know if I can do all 3.
Okay, give us the one that stood out.
Well, there were fried vegetables, almost like a frito misto, but make it French version. Beautiful, like summer squash that almost had like creamy avocado consistency when it was fried, green beans, etc. That came with an anchionade. There also was a really perfect roast chicken that had a spring vegetable ragu and then a very kind of thick aioli with it. The third aioli, I don't think I could recount at this time.
It's okay. 2 is great. Great.
But what I also had that I really liked was a chilled celery soup that was like a pureed, cold, very celery-forward soup that had its heft from potato. So it was pretty light and not too heavy for the heat. And then I had kind of a dollop of yogurt or creme fraiche on top.
Giving a little vichyssoise?
Yeah, a little. It was just a really fun meal. They also did like fresh madeleines baked to order for dessert, and it was poppin'. Apparently, Julianne Moore was there that night, but I did not see her.
Good spotting. Remind us the neighborhood for the restaurant.
West Village, I guess. It's kind of like towards the water a little bit more. But I had a really nice meal there.
Yeah, Zimmy's is on my list, absolutely.
What's your first thing?
My first thing is I'm going book mode for the next 3. I just have been, the pile is growing on my desk, and I have so many great books to chat about, but not all cookbooks. But the first one is one. It's Melissa King's Cook Like a King, and I'm having Melissa on the show soon to talk about it. And we've had a lot of books in our world, as I just mentioned, but this one really, really stands out. I think it's going to be a big book this year, at least editorially. I think the editors are going to really enjoy it because Melissa is, as a reminder, won Top Chef All-Stars and competed in a previous season of Top Chef. Just a terrific chef and just thinker about food. In this book, Melissa talks about her upbringing in Southern California, living in East LA, and how this Chinese California style all comes into focus with the cooking that she does on the road. She does a lot of pop-ups. That's kind of her vibe. She doesn't have a restaurant, which I think is really interesting. With all that acclaim, you'd think, oh, maybe have a restaurant, but she's decided to be a pop-up chef, at least now. And this book is really smart. And I'm going to ask her about this, Eliza, but I'm like, literally, if you want to open like a cool, like Chinese restaurant with like a lot of, different areas to go in, like just buy this book and copy the recipes. That's how strong I feel about these recipes because they just like, they read like restaurant cooking, but I think the development of the recipes in the book actually make them doable at home.
Yeah, maybe don't steal the recipes for a restaurant, but cook them at home.
I mean, this is the joke. I mean, I'm definitely kidding. I think that's why when you see cookbooks in restaurants, there's like always homages. But yeah, be original out there as a reminder to young chefs opening. But some of the dishes that stuck out, a chili Chris Labna, a chili lime melon and prosciutto, a Sichuan steak tartare. I mean, these are the types of dishes that I just see written on a menu, something that I want to order. And just great stories too in the book. And Ed Anderson shot the photography. think in all levels, this is one of my favorite books of the year.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do a book for my second thing,
Sure,
and
great.
hopefully it's not on your list. But I'm really excited about Samin Nosrat's new book,
Yeah.
Good Things, September. I just am a huge fan of Samin, as I think most people on Earth probably are at this point. And I think that she just knows how people want to eat, or at least I want to eat like how she likes to eat. There's ricotta custard pancakes, which I don't normally make breakfast at home in an involved way, but I think that would be the thing for me. Even just like a saffron roast chicken, which is, I think, kind of a version of the roast chicken that Samin did in her previous book. And I'm just excited to have her back, in the larger cultural conversation around food. I think, obviously, things have changed so much and grown so much since Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. Like, that really is one of the seminal contemporary cookbook texts. And I think it'll be really fun and interesting to see how she's kind of building on top of that.
I love it. I can't wait to read it. And I remember episode 1 of this podcast was her launching Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat at Books Are Magic in Brooklyn. And I want to see the evolution. I'm really curious how that, going from this one just seminal text, I agree fully, into this new cookbook with a lot of time in between.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What's your next thing?
My next thing is a book from Ed Park. It's called An Oral History of Atlantis. It's a short story collection. Ed is the author of Same Bed, Different Day, which was a finalist for the Pulitzer. And I really love this collection. But I picked this up and I started reading it and I really couldn't put it down. I think a short story collection really can be hit or miss for me. If the stories don't, if there's a lot of like clunkers or ones that really don't connect. But I was like reading the first 7 and I'm like, these are all connecting. I mean, I think general themes in this collection is definitely nostalgia and 90s. He's writing about a character who's shooting a student film at Yale in the 90s. There's a great story about an editor of a 90s East Village magazine. There's a story about a wife on Ambien that was originally run in The New Yorker, a famous short story that he wrote. I just like the way he writes about writers. He writes about writers reviewing writers. So there's a little bit of that meta work in there. And I just think Ed, he writes about the Korean American diaspora and the experience throughout his novels and many of these short stories too. And he's like a stylist. He's extremely funny, and I think he's one of my favorite authors right now.
Yeah, I can't wait to read that one.
Yeah. What's your next thing?
My last thing is I went to my friend Ed Min Hong's pop-up over the weekend at Honey's, and I just am such a fan of his food. He was cooking at Achilles Heel most recently, and now is, I think, starting to do pop-ups under the name Stones. And everything was just exactly how I want to eat, really seasonal. He had the grill out and going. He did like a grilled mushroom, oyster mushroom with a sweet turmeric chili glaze that almost felt like a green curry kind of when it was on the plate. Pork belly skewers over rice, and then this XO tomato with stracciatella. I think that was the dish that I'm most excited to try to rip off myself at home, because I really like this pairing of fresh tomato with this creamy, almost like falling apart cheese and that XO on top. And I know he's going to do more pop-ups, so I just think that's a fun one to look out for.
And it's called Stones.
Stones.nyc, I think, is the Instagram handle. We can link to it in the show notes.
I will check that out. I love that.
Yeah. What's your last thing?
My last thing is another cookbook that I have the advanced copy. And I say it's important, not the PDF, but the advanced, is that this is a big book. It drops with a thud, and it's called Steakhouse. It's by Eric Wareheim and Gabe Eula. And Eric, of course, of the book Foodheim, and a comic and an interesting guy in the wine world. And this is a full-hearted tribute to the American steakhouse. I think one thing about the format, it's so big, it might be challenging for some readers to actually read the book. I highly suggest you read this book, because what Eric and Gabe are doing is they're paying tribute to the individuals, the chefs, the front of house, the purveyors who make these iconic steakhouses go, and they're really great stories. I just could not put it down. He profiles, of course, Peter Luger's and Donahue's in New York. He moves to North Carolina and goes to Beef and Bottle. There's an over-the-top evening at Burns in Florida, which I think is has one of the most extensive wine lists in America. There's, of course, recipes. There's 45 recipes for classic preparations, Parker House rolls, pollo asado, and there's a crown pork recipe. So it's kind of classics and some nouveau spins. But the photography, the photo program, Marcus Nilsson does it, and that's his longtime collaborator, Bon Appetit, has a really clear vision for an aesthetic that works so well in that documentary world. And clearly they're having a riot while on the road. And the Little Red Barn in San Antonio is profiled. Loved that blurb. It's a lot of oral history. A lot of these profiles are direct quotes from the folks working there, and that restaurant looks amazing. So I just think this book has a lot of dimensions to it. It's beautiful photography, just really cool vibes with Eric and Gabe hanging out with all these people, but also just great storytelling. So
yeah, it sounds like a great book.
Thanks for sharing the 3 things.
You too.
I love Maine lobster for its versatility in the kitchen and its iconic flavor. The sweetest lobster on earth, prepared in pasta, served chilled in a salad, and of course in a lobster roll. Maine's lobster fishery is among the most sustainable in the world, with every lobster harvested by hand, one trap at a time, from independently owned and operated day boats. Maine lobster can be purchased year-round, fresh or frozen, raw or pre-cooked, shell on or shell off, and with ready-to-eat and ready-to-use options. Visit lobsterfrommaine.com for details. Embark on a gastronomic tour through Europe's finest flavors with European Tasty Tales, a podcast series that explores interesting stories behind traditions, taste, and iconic European Union products such as Italian Pecorino Romano, Croatian extra virgin olive oil, and Irish whiskey. Each episode celebrates the stories, culture, and people behind these extraordinary culinary experiences. Start your tasty adventure today by listening to European Tasty Tales on Spotify. Tejal Rao, welcome to This Is Taste. So great to see you.
Hi, thanks, Matt.
I'm excited to chat with you about your new role. Some things have changed, some things have not. And you and Ligaya Mishan are the co-chief critics at the Times in the restaurant category, of course. And I want to talk about your career a bit because we've known each other for a long time and I've followed it. I want to talk about a couple of the reviews that you've already written, maybe some future reviews. But first, I always ask, can we talk about where you've been dining? Is that possible at all?
I'm trying to think of something I could talk about that I'm not working on.
I mean, I guess we can have a joke with it. Are you ever off the clock?
I sort of had an off-the-clock meal last night in Cobble Hill because I landed really late and saw some friends, like old neighborhood friends at St. Julivert.
Yeah, St. Julivert, yeah.
I had just a very chill dinner, neighborhood dinner there. Walked over from my hotel, past my old bra lady, shout out Iris Lingerie on Atlantic Avenue, and our the vet who used to see our dog before we moved to LA, and just had
One Love.
No, I did walk by One Love, and it was Hope. It was Hope.
Hope, yeah, Hope. Yeah. That's our old vet. We could talk about our old vets the whole time.
We could do this for an hour, yeah. So I did. That was sort of a spontaneous dinner with friends, but that is pretty rare.
That's really nice, though.
Yeah.
That you can, because thinking about your job, I mean, you are writing about places that host these dinners. These are why people dine out, is to have that chill meal. Not always, and of course, there's different formats that provide different experiences. But I think we're always seeking chill in some ways.
Yeah, I guess nothing is off the clock. I guess I feel like I should it's not off the clock. It's just that someone else sort of chose that. But I wasn't I need to go here for a story I'm working on.
Yeah. I
asked a friend hey, are you free for dinner?
Yeah, and you just did it and had a great catch up.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the new job because it had to be a whirlwind. And I asked the guy this, when you found out you got the job, what's going through your head?
It was, I had a moment of celebration. I had I did have a few seconds of just feeling the pure thrill and joy of, oh my God, I get to do this work that I love doing and I get to do it. Oh my God, I get, that. And it very quickly, I went into, oh my God, I have to start doing it right now because I'm going to be behind.
Yeah.
If I don't start right now.
Was that like realistic, or was that just you putting that in your?
No, I think it was realistic. I spent a month, doing a ton of travel and trying to get first visits into a lot of places I want to go to, and also just going to get a sense of some cities where I haven't eaten a lot recently.
Yeah.
And I still don't feel, it's just going to feel that way all the time, I think.
I bet. I mean, you're covering the country. I
Yeah.
mean, you're based in Los Angeles. You're going to have a focus there. Ligaya seems to be covering New York, being based here. But I mean, when you look at, are you looking at maps more now?
Looking at maps.
Like the U.S. map, like looking at just like the city maps, like when you're looking at, like, are you just in Google Maps more?
I am looking, I'm always looking at Google Maps
me too.
a lot.
Obsessed.
Yeah. And then sometimes you're like, oh, I forgot. You put stars down or you put something down where you've been maybe. And so you form your own map of the city.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at my old maps of cities and seeing where I need to what's missing as well. It's like all I'm seeing is what I still need to do.
Of course. I mean, that because you take this job very seriously and you're dedicated to it, and you just, as a good journalist, you don't want to miss things.
Yeah.
You want to be accurate and thorough.
Yeah.
But you can't.
It's not possible.
It's not possible physically to be in all 50 states in a year.
Yeah.
So you're going to miss a state.
Absolutely. I'm going to just try and be as strategic as possible and, do as much research as possible and hope that all that stuff guides me.
Yeah. Broadly, what's the travel looking like for your role now?
It's basically every other week I'm traveling
for
a few nights at least.
That's amazing. I mean, have you ever done that kind of travel in your life?
I've done I have done, not at this consistently for this long, but I've had jobs where I've had to travel a lot.
Yeah. You got the Delta miles going? Got it working?
Yeah. I asked one of my friends who Kushbu, who worked for Food and Wine and had a job where she traveled a ton. I asked her for advice, and one of the things she said was, commit to an airline and commit to a hotel.
Yeah, that's a great advice.
You won't regret that.
Yeah, that's great advice. I know you can't really say where you're traveling, but generally speaking, is there a city that you have visited recently in the past 6 months that you hadn't been to that you were really excited about?
I was really excited about Minneapolis, actually.
Yeah.
I thought, Minneapolis, so beautiful in the summertime and such interesting food. Really, delighted by Minneapolis. And I want to go to Atlanta, which is where I went to high school. And I feel like I haven't really spent a lot of time there as an adult, in its restaurant scene.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That will be a great backdrop to write against, knowing it as a teenager and not having really focused on it. I love Minneapolis in the summertime. It's a little different in January, I'd say, but it is one of the most beautiful cities. It's so green. That's so great. Well, I want to go back a little bit and talk about your career, because we've never had this opportunity to go through it, because it's a really cool, and really I think it builds to where you're at now. And let's go back to the Village Voice and working as a writer for the online version. We used to call them blogs, and reviewing restaurants and kind of starting your career there, working for a publication that's long gone, not forgotten. What's it like writing for The Voice?
The Voice was my first time being on staff. Before that, I had been freelancing, so I had done a bunch of writing, but I didn't have that consistent relationship with an editor, which is what helped me at The Voice really understand how writing and reviewing worked. You're doing the same work week after week, and you're kind of learning with every single review. Something about writing, something about restaurants. Brian Parks was my editor for a while, and then Jessica Lustig, who's at the New York Times Magazine now. It was really exciting. I felt the Village Voice was at a weird moment, and it was I didn't know how kind of vulnerable media was in that moment. I was so excited to be there and doing the work.
So what's it like writing at The Voice in 2012 and having Robert there as the columnist, having a print publication. You said it's a weird time. That's an understatement because in a few short years, there's no more Village Voice. But this is such an important part in history of food writing, this alt-weekly ethic for writing about food, quite different from the New York Times and even different from Time Out New York and Grub Street and Eater.
Yeah, it was kind of like going to journalism school for me, which I didn't actually do. Having Robert there, we didn't get to go out to eat that often because we were kind of, when you're on the same beat, it's like you need to use your time to go do your meal. But I learned so much anytime he was in a room. He would just be he would have so much knowledge about the city, or if I was working on something, he would have suggestions for places I should go. And while I was there was suddenly this input from corporate to up the number of posts in the food blog. There was a sort of beginning of that.
Yeah.
My job, in addition to writing reviews with Robert, was to edit the blog.
Oh, wow.
And we had 3 or 4 contributors at the time.
And we're talking 8-10 posts a day, right? They want.
I can't remember. Yeah, it felt unmanageable. I don't remember what the number was.
No, of course. And I'm sure some of those stories they're doing clickbait, they're doing slideshows. It's definitely a different ethic. And having to balance that work with these reviews must have been challenging.
I also think it was, in a way, it was also the space where writers could have a chance to work stuff out. It wasn't all clickbait. Sometimes a writer would say, Clarissa Way was contributing at the time, and she had some really interesting ideas for posts, and so many people came through. It's like the blog was a space where you could kind of test out ideas and write outside of print. In that sense, it was so vital.
Completely. And I'll clarify, when I say clickbait, I was assuming that was the mandate from the boss.
Yeah,
but for sure, a lot of online publications at high volume were not doing clickbait. They were actually exploring new territories that are now being presented via social media, of Instagram, Reels, and et cetera. It was on the blogs back then.
Yeah.
I have to shout out Robert Sietsema's Substack. It's just such a required reading. I can't stop shouting it out. I read. He posts 3 a week. It's remarkable how much he puts into it. You move on to Bloomberg, very different place, and you're reviewing and you're an editor at the same time.
I wasn't an editor. I was just reviewing.
You were just reviewing.
Yeah.
What's it like? Shifting your energies from hyperlocal New York, running the blog, and thinking about 5 boroughs, and then you move to Bloomberg, and that's a global brand, and you're thinking about large topics in food and restaurants around the world. What's that like? Yeah,
and the focus at Bloomberg was really, luxury.
Yeah.
That was the, which was an interesting exercise because I had to think about, well, can I write about a noodle place? Can I write about something that isn't a conventional luxury? And the answer, because that team was really great, was yes. But also, can you write about, Noma Tokyo, or, can you travel to this one bar in London? There was a little bit of that stuff, extreme stuff too, but there was room. There was a lot of space to kind of interpret what would be valuable to a Bloomberg reader.
How do you do that as just somebody where this is core, taste is core to your job, really assessing taste, and it seems maybe luxury wasn't necessarily your taste, or maybe it was, but having to shift and have this mandate of what you have to review, challenging, right?
Yeah, it's really. It was really interesting. I remember writing about this. I don't know if it's still around. Burger and Lobster, is that what it's called?
Yeah, sure. Maybe
which
it's
is
around.
A chain, an English chain that was itself kind of interpreting luxury, doing boiled lobsters and hamburgers, and I think something like caviar bumps, but I wasn't there. I got to write about that, and it was really felt really culturally relevant and interesting to me. I think I have a pretty wide sense of taste. Even I wouldn't want to focus on just one genre of food or just one. I think I'm kind of a generalist,
Yeah, and in hindsight, it's obviously set you up for this new role to be able to enter any restaurant space and feel comfortable and look at it critically from all the different people going there? I mean, you can't just review one type of restaurant for this job at the Times.
Yeah, which is the fun of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sort of like the agonizing part. Like, how do you choose?
We can get into that because
Yeah.
I think it is a big country, and I think the two reviews I've read at the time we're recording this show range and show a really interesting taste. So let's move on to the Times in 2016. The phone rings and they're calling. What's the conversation like?
I believe the first person I spoke to at the Times was Sam Sifton. They were looking for a food reporter on the desk, and it was a really like the most exciting moment. I was so excited to think about reporting for the New York Times and to think about food stories for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even.
You were like, okay, sign me up. Let's go. Let's do it. Right.
Yeah,
right.
It was really exciting.
What are those before you moved to California? What is your reporting like at the Times? What's your early career like there?
I'm trying to remember those stories because I had about 2 years in New York before I left. I remember writing a profile of a street cart vendor, like a halal cart vendor. I feel like that was one of the pieces I was most excited to work on.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, it was very local. I was doing a lot of New York stories, a lot of New York food stories. I wrote about a dog who was trained to sniff out, a particular bacteria in honeybee hives.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed that work. It wasn't all restaurant stories.
So let's talk about moving to California. You become the California restaurant critic, and it's a brand new state. You're covering the restaurants locally, but for the national publication. What's that like?
That was it was really challenging. I mean, I was coming in as a New Yorker, and so I think one of the very first pieces I did was I was genuinely trying to figure out, what does the LA restaurant scene mean, and what are the places that I need to go to understand LA, and that was just a task I'd set for myself for weeks, kind of going to a bunch of older, kind of old school LA restaurants, and then ended up turning that into a story. Places like Dantana's and King Taco, and places that maybe New York wouldn't take so seriously, and even people in LA kind of. I mean, King Taco is not like a great taqueria, but it has history.
Yeah,
it helped me build context for California and for LA.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you in your discovery of this new city, you're writing about it along the way. I recall those stories were very interesting when you're covering, these legendary places that maybe some have fallen off and not, but like you're kind of growing as we're reading. And I really appreciate that because it's not easy to do that in a city and a state where the locals are pretty protective.
Yeah. And where they've had to be because there's been so many of those like, completely misunderstanding LA stories, to be fair.
I'm laughing. It's like the parachute story in LA it like never plays well. I've like attempted to write about it and like I've like burned the draft because it just doesn't work. But you're a local now. You consider yourself a local?
Oh yeah, for sure.
You feel that way? I want to ask you actually about a couple LA stories or California stories. And I'm going to link to these in the show notes because they're really terrific. And it shows this, you evolving as a reporter and just reporting about LA and California. You wrote about hard shell tacos. I love the piece and just giving respect for the hard shell tacos and profiling Taco Fiesta in Highland Park, which I think is a terrific place. What was that piece like?
Oh, that piece, there are so many things going on in there. It's one of those stories where I learned a lot through researching and writing and interviewing people. There's something so magical about the hard shell taco, right? And I wanted to take it out of the fast food narrative. Like it doesn't really belong to Taco Bell, and there is a version of it that, it deviated at one point when Taco Bell, when Glenn Bell reinvented it a little bit and changed the shell and, made it a fast food item. But then it also like kept evolving on its own and also has this history from way before Taco Bell. So, one of the things that, and I think like right before I started working on the stories, Tim Walz had like done this interview where he called it he called it his white guy taco or something.
Oh, boy.
And which is, fair enough.
No, it's his truth. I mean, that's Tim Walz's truth right there. Absolutely.
But I talked to, I think, Stephen Alvarez, Dr. Alvarez, who told me, I'm paraphrasing a little, but he said something like the way we name that taco has kind of removed it from its history. And it is, in fact, like an expression of migration. And I thought that was really beautiful, specifically because that place in Highland Park is run by Suvit, who is a Thai immigrant who has like maintained this perfect artifact of like the hard shell taco for like 50 years.
Yeah, it's got the
it's
legacy.
like a kind of a beautiful. I like that taco. I don't love that taco, but I love that he has maintained it. He's like protected this thing.
What did you learn reporting about the Houston's French dip? Houston's has been of great fascination to food writers, and finding a unique angle, I feel, would be challenging because it's just been covered, but you had a great piece there.
I'm like, what was my angle?
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh yeah, so when I moved to the United States as a teenager, that was one of the restaurants that my family went to a couple times for a special occasion meal. And it was like it's such a representation of American service and American restaurant culture in the 90s, and it was so exotic to my family. It was so foreign and weird. And this piece was I was like excavating that experience and trying to understand what it is that appealed to us.
Yeah.
Because it was also it was weird in that it was so pleasant.
Oh, interesting.
Like it was so pleasant and friendly and so different from, we had moved here from France, so different from European restaurants, which just is a different personality, and also in reporting the piece, they don't have a PR team. They don't do any marketing, as far as I know.
Yeah, you never see a Houston's
They
ad.
really kind of just erase themselves from their brand. And it's really interesting that it does still resonate so much with so many like chefs and food writers.
Yeah, I mean, let's step into that. Is it because of the familiarity, because of some of the elevated service points at Houston's? I think we think of that.
Yeah, I think like despite the fact that it's so kind of corporate and generic and like pleasant, which are all things that can be good and bad, right?
Yeah.
But despite all of that, it's also so consistent. It's so consistent. And I think that's just like something to admire.
Yeah, like the 12 cities it's in or probably more, you're going to get that consistent martini, that burger, that French dip,
Yeah.
a steak, a salad. I mean, I would say Cheesecake Factory does a version of that.
I'm really embarrassed to say I've not been to a Cheesecake Factory.
Well, it sounds like you got a review for you.
I think the original is in LA.
Is it? Yeah, that tracks with me.
There's so much chain and fast food history in LA.
Is chains part of your remit for this role?
It's not something I'm prioritizing.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
I'm much more interested in independent restaurants.
There's plenty of other writers that on the Times food desk to cover the chains and give it, a critical review.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. I think that your unique role that you and Ligaya share I personally think should be elevating independent restaurants.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the reviews. I feel like we should start with Maureen Nozumi. You write, quote, "You won't find the spectacle of the bromakase, no stunts or swagger, no torched wagyu, no flurry of truffles, no caviar bumps, no grand gestures designed to convince you that a couple of hours at this softly buzzing counter in the Sawtell neighborhood, shoulder to shoulder with a handful of strangers, is worth your time or the $250 price tag. Yet, it was worth the price tag." Terrific review, and I loved the choice. What brought you to it?
Thank you. I've had a lot of, I think everyone has like a lot of these omakase experiences that sort of blur into one another that can feel really generic, almost like they're being replicated from the same, original meal or something. And Maureen Nozomi felt really special for a bunch of different reasons. I mean, just in terms of the quality of the ingredients and the technique and like the finesse of the food. But also like the style of the omakase, it's not just super fast-paced sushi piece, sushi nigiri. She mixes in these more complex dishes and vegetables and seafood cooking kind of beyond the sushi that make it feel really distinct. And she also does like a tea service at the end of the meal and makes her own wagashi. And it's really, really extraordinary without being like big and loud,
And you tap into the idea of the bromakase because there's clearly like a business objective with the omakase. If you're on the Resi and you're looking in New York, you're going to find so many of these restaurants. Clearly, there's like a structure that it makes sense to do an omakase. But a lot of times, these omakase restaurants are faceless and nameless and not worth it. What do you think about the future of the omakase?
I mean, as a genre, I think maybe it's about to kind of like it's peaked.
Yeah.
But I hope the people who keep kind of expanding on the tradition and changing it and making it like who have a really distinct point of view, keep doing it.
I like that sentiment a lot because I think there's a wonderful set menu Japanese sushi concepts restaurants in our world. Maybe the branding of it needs a little bit of a tweak.
Yeah.
Bromakase, whoever first wrote that's pretty great. And I feel like
I think it was Pete Wells.
Pete Wells. Let's give it credit then. Pete Wells first wrote that term and it makes a lot of sense. It's like thinking about let's go for omakase as like literally something people say.
Yeah.
But I think the net positive is that it's introducing Japanese cooking to a younger audience. And that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe peaking a little bit. But for your first review, you went to New Orleans and Akamaya. And I feel like that piece also said something about you as a critic. And it's not in your hometown. You were clearly there months ahead of time. Tell us about what you found there.
I had heard a bunch about this restaurant. It's not like I put it on the map. It's a restaurant I'd heard about, and Anna Castro seemed really interesting. Her work seemed really interesting to me. And it was one of maybe 8 or 10 places that I went to when I went to New Orleans. I wasn't sure what my first review would be. I was doing tons of traveling. Wow. And that restaurant just seemed really, really, really interesting in the way that it was drawing a connection between Mexico and Louisiana, and it had a really strong sense of place. And it was also so different from the other, because there's a lot of great seafood restaurants in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Really, really different from the other ones that I went to. I was so excited to write about it.
Yeah. And so you're visiting New Orleans and you're basically scouting a bunch of restaurants for future coverage, and you have to land on one. What's up with New Orleans these days? You just did the work. What's exciting about it?
Oh my gosh. New Orleans is one of my favorite food cities in the country. Like it's not even just food. I mean, it's just it's the kind of, there are cities where when you go as a tourist or as a journalist, there are places that really do make you instantly feel at home. And New Orleans is one of those places. I just love being there.
It's amazing. And I feel like New Orleans, it's hard to channel the terroir of New Orleans outside of New Orleans. You see some restaurants open up in bigger cities trying to do it, and they fall short sometimes because it doesn't have that, that grit, that sweat, and that terroir of the flavors of the grilling and of the seafood, and just the culture there is so unique. It's so singular.
It's also one of those places where I feel like I've been going to Pesh for so long.
Yeah.
There's certain classic restaurants you can go back to over and over and over again and see how they're changing and growing, and I find that really satisfying.
Well, let's talk about stars a little bit. I guess when you're asked for a star rating system, how do you interpret the system that the Times has set up for you?
The system is, I think, very open to interpretation because it's just each category is just defined by a word.
I know.
So there are no actual rules in place. So Ligaya and I are often kind of talking it through, and for ourselves and just to kind of to figure it out. We are actually trying to put words to it right now we have a Google Doc going where we're trying to figure out, if this thing is inconsistent, can you be a 2-star restaurant? If
Yeah.
if you it's not just about the food, it's about like the restaurant as a whole. Or is it just or are people thinking that, because we're also projecting what people are imagining the stars are about.
I know. And there's like a lot of, you could say, dollars associated with stars
Yeah.
in restaurant groups.
But how do you break some of those conventions? Like,
I know.
is it possible to be a 4-star restaurant if you're not fine dining? I don't know if the answer is yes, but like, I would like to figure that out.
And you've really articulated the beauty of having this co-critic system, to have a sounding board, to have collaboration, because it's a lonely role when you're at the top and it's only your voice. I mean, talk about being in your head a little bit. Not that you don't have those moments as a critic, I'm sure you do, but it sounds like you and Ligaya are talking. Are you reading each other's copy each week?
I'm not reading before it's published. I read when it's published, like everyone else. But I like look forward to reading Ligaya, and then I will also say, I feel like it keeps me on my toes a little bit. She's so good at what she does. It like motivates me, and it makes me want to be better.
I think it's a beautiful thing that you can collaborate but have uniquely different voices and styles and taste. It's such a good decision by the times to have both of you at the top. I just have to say that.
I agree.
Just to cover more restaurants. And that leads to a question I posed to Ligaya, and I'm not sure if it's been sussed out, but in the announcement, it was implied that New York would have more voices writing critically about restaurants, perhaps with stars or just in general. Hungry City was such a force when it was around, and I've been saying it for a while. It'd be great to see that return. Do you have any insight into how New York is going to be covered more rigorously?
I don't have a lot of details. I do know that we're going to have a couple of people writing, like shorter reviews, capsule reviews, which is really exciting. It kind of, for a million reasons, there aren't enough, I think like New York, there are so many great restaurants, they need more reviews. People want to know about them. But also, I just think like critics need more spaces where they can write,
Yes.
Like I think back to when I first started, there were so many restaurant critics that you could read every week, or spaces where, food criticism would appear in like different forms, even if it wasn't a traditional review. And there aren't as many, and if you're coming up and you're interested in that kind of work, like you need to be able to start somewhere.
That's a great point about thinking about the journalism industry. On the flip side too, I think for the restaurant industry, an industry we care deeply about collectively on the show, it's almost like a public service. I've said it before, for restaurants to have staffed, funded, objective critics paying attention and giving restaurants their deserved space in print. And that they hear that the Times is investing in more of that is super heartening. I wish more publishers would do that, because we live in this food world where restaurants drive culture in all forms of culture. You go to any podcast or TV show and they're talking about where they're dining out, but we're not investing in the coverage of restaurants.
Yeah. I wish I knew I wish I had more details, or I knew the timeline. I don't.
It's okay. I mean, I'm just heartened by that.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Do you think that restaurant reviewing is a bit of a public service for the industry?
I think it can be.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's you mean for the restaurant industry itself?
Yeah. And you don't have to respond concretely with your role. You have to be separate. But I just think as the industry becomes more and more centered in culture, as young people discover the beauty of dining out and cultural cachet given to a visit to a restaurant, I think that there should be publications staffed and funded to assess them.
Yeah. When I'm writing, I'm not writing for the restaurant. I'm writing for the reader.
Yeah.
But I'm still thinking about, it's like you can't completely remove yourself from that,
Definitely. So what's it like being back in New York? Just being back here. You're doing a bunch of media, which is great. It's got to be different being on camera now. But
it's weird being on camera. It's wonderful being back in New York.
Yeah.
I love Los Angeles, and it's exactly where I want to be. but my heart like aches when I'm in New York. Like New York is, it's like a person who I love and broke up with and will always love. Do you know what I mean?
You said it so well. I absolutely do. Wow. Is your next review totally like loaded and ready to go? We're recording this on a Tuesday.
It is filed. I've filed it.
Okay.
I have not gotten edits back yet.
Tell me about that. Ligaya had some great insight into her editing process, and I think she was saying she writes through the night. What's it like? You know, you get the edits back, and the thing about this column that you guys write, it never ends. Your deadline is always there.
It's like that's the beauty of it.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the, existential like dread that I experience every other week too. It's beautiful because it like gives my work and my life structure and meaning.
Yeah.
And then it's horrifying because as soon as you file, like, oh, time to do. I mean, every columnist, everyone with a regular deadline, it's like I need it. I need the deadline, and also I can't believe it's here again.
Are you a quick rewriter, or do you have to take a little while on those edits?
It depends on the piece, depends on the number of edits.
Mm-hmm.
Once they're in, I like to turn it around as quickly as possible. In part because I want to kind of I want to start on the next piece,
Yeah.
It's really hard to be working on, for my brain, it's really hard to compartmentalize and work on two pieces at once.
Oh, so you're pretty linear with that.
I try. No, I'm not really allowed to be, but I would like to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got like notes and you've got a runway of things you want to write. And then of course the two of you have to negotiate just getting like the flavor of the column has to kind of flow a little bit now that it has this new style. You're rewriting the history of this column by do you guys just get on the phone and go over your next 3 or 4? We're
on the phone a lot. We also have a shared document, but I think mostly we want to talk to each other when we don't just want to like put something in the doc. We talk.
That's really cool. Did you guys know each other before the roles?
We did. We read each other's work starting in probably like 2012. I was a huge fan of Ligaya's, and I would like wait for her column every week when she was writing Hungry City. And we went out for meals. We started going out together to eat maybe in like, I think 2012, 2013.
Fun.
Maybe it was later than that. But yeah, we've known each other for a while.
Well, Tejal, I can't wait to have you back in a year or so. I just want to check in with you and talk about your work on our show. It's so important, and I can't wait. On This Is Taste, we ask guests about their discerning taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid fire, fast and furious taste check. Are you ready?
Yeah.
The best fruit?
Mangoes.
Do you have a type or style or season?
I mean, Indian mangoes in season are great, but I'll take like a really beautiful like mango from California as well. Thank you.
Got it. The worst vegetable?
I don't think there are bad vegetables. I think there's like bad cooks,
You get a pass. You wrote a newsletter with vegetable in the title, and that is the correct answer. So I'm going to give you that pass.
I don't want to eat raw bell peppers, though.
Oh, yeah. No one does.
Yeah.
That's a terrible vegetable. So thank you for answering it after I give you the out. What is your typical breakfast?
I do not eat breakfast.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. I do like 2 coffees in a row and then lunch later on.
Are we talking espresso machine, Chemex? What are we doing?
Yeah, espresso machine, espresso with like a tiny bit of foam milk.
I got it. But then lunch, that's when you go to town.
Yeah.
You're usually working, so.
I had a really brief phase of being a breakfast person. Sorry, you don't want long answers on these, right?
No, you can expand.
Is this the rapid fire?
It's a total bullshit premise because definitely, it becomes 20 minutes before you know it, so you can answer that question.
I had a brief phase of being a breakfast person, and I thought that that's who I had become. And then after a few months, it just didn't feel right.
Didn't feel right.
Yeah.
You did those double coffees.
Yeah.
The best dessert?
Best dessert is like freshly churned ice cream that hasn't seen the freezer yet.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's just been churned, but it's never been totally frozen.
Oh, that's such a good call. Flavor?
I mean, open to flavors. I like really, really, I don't want to say vanilla ice cream,
Yeah.
But my brain is like vanilla.
No, it's so good. A restaurant you wish you could bring back from the dead?
Maybe Tabla, where I just heard so much about it. And I once carried like my boss's bags into it, but I never actually ate a meal there.
You carried your boss's bags into it.
Yeah, like I had to
It's a
drop something off. I just had to drop something off for a boss.
I see.
But I didn't get to like sit down and have a meal.
That's a good answer. When you're craving fast food, where are you going?
I do think a lot about Arby's curly fries.
Yes.
Like specifically Arby's curly fries, but I can't remember the last time I had them.
Yeah. Maybe it needs a reinvestigation.
Yes. Yeah.
You're on the road, you're heading to the airport, hit up that Arby's. I like that call. Your favorite city outside of America to visit for food?
This is so boring. Paris.
Not boring. It's the most common answer.
Paris is not boring, but the answer is boring.
No, I know. No, Paris is not boring, but the answer is great because it definitely is a common answer and it says something. Last one, your favorite sandwich?
I love a BLT. And I also love like the kind of veggie sandwich, the hippie sandwich, sprouts, avocado. There are a lot of great versions of that sandwich that I love.
I love that answer.
Have you been to Breadhead in LA?
I have, yeah.
They make a really good one.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I haven't been there in a while. Yeah. I'm going soon. I'm going to hit a Breadhead. I like that a lot. Tejal, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
This is Taste is hosted and produced by Eliza Barbanel and me, Matt Rodbar. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Logo and guest illustrations by Ellie Skurzat. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.